And we are live. Welcome back to Pistons Jack Fan Reacts, where we're going to chat about the Pistons' tough, kind of brutal loss tonight against the Indiana Pacers. And I'm going to have my man, Bobby Buckets. We're going to get Robbie up here. Robbie Bedalon from Detroit Bad Boys. Really excited to chat with him. But before we do, if you want to come up and chat Pistons hoops tonight, I know it was a tough loss, but I have Robbie up first, and then I think that's it for now. So it's open air after that. So please shoot me a DM now on Instagram or Twitter, and I'll get you up here. But I'm going to bring up my man, Robbie, now. What's going on, man?
Jack, what's going on, brother? It's good to officially meet you, man.
You too, my man. Your name threw me off there because I remember Bobby Buckets from, is that the DBB name?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that became my username prior to writing for DBB, and now it's just been my online Pistons persona at this point.
I love it. Do you want me to call you Bobby or Robbie?
Either one.
I'm going to go Bobby. I like Bobby
Right.
Buckets. Rolls off the tongue so well.
I don't spell it as cool as Bobby Clintman, but
first thing we do when we get a new person on here is just tell us how you became a Pistons fan and kind of your history with the team.
okay. So I grew up about half an hour north of Detroit in Oakland County. So just grew up, Pistons, Lions, Red Wings, Tigers, still a Detroit fan to this day. But now I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee. So anytime like the Red Wings come to play the Predators, like we try to go to those games, even down here. But just growing up, in Michigan, my dad was a huge, Detroit sports fan. And I would say my claim to fame for Pistons fandom is my dad and I went to Game 5 of the championship game in 2004. So I got to see the going to work guys, Chauncey, win finals MVP and all that. I was only like 11 or 12 at the time, so I don't remember a ton of it, but I would say that's my claim to fame for Pistons fandom.
Got it, man. So you've been here for a while. So
Yeah,
because some people that come
here
up
for a
here, we've had international fans up here who have only joined in the past couple of years or since like the mid 2000s. But no, you've seen a lot then.
Yes, for sure.
Just before I get to the game, Lewis, I've just seen your message. If you want to join, I'll probably go here with Bobby for probably 20 to 30 minutes. So if you're happy to wait, then please shoot me a DM and I'll get back to you. But look, pretty tough game tonight. The Pistons lose to the Pacers. I think 100 to 111 in a game. I just felt like the Pistons never really got a run together until a little bit in the fourth there. But what did you see? What are your initial thoughts following the loss?
Yeah, it felt like every time they had an opportunity, they got it within 6. And it's like the Pacers would hit another open 3, or they would get it close again. They'd go on a run and we'd have, a tough turnover. I think the frustrating part for me is it felt like they didn't show up, like the 6th seed was on the line, and it felt like the Pacers did. They definitely turned the energy on late. It just felt like it came on too late. It even got a little chippy at the end there, if you saw after the whistle. So I just wish we saw that energy a little earlier in the game. But I also think Carlisle had a great game plan. They doubled Cade all night. They pressed us up the court and forced us into some tough turnovers. So I just feel like it wasn't one of those nights for Detroit, and especially some of the vets just didn't shoot well. But I would say this felt like the first game since Ivy's injury where it felt like we were really missing him. I think some of these previous games, we've had some other people step up, but it felt like Ivy would have been perfect for bringing the ball up the court if they were pressing Cade, or somebody else to initiate some offense. Because if Cade didn't have the ball and they did a good job denying him, it just felt like we couldn't get anything going.
Absolutely, man. And Lewis, I just got your DM, so I will get you on after. So I'll shoot you a link. I just don't want to type and reply right now while we're chatting, but I will get you up next. I agree, Jaden Ivey. Great point from you. how many times tonight did we see Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley trying to penetrate into the paint, dribble, taking a tough turnaround? I think they each got blocked on one of those shots. Like Miles
Cade
Turner
got
tonight,
blocked too.
Cade
Miles
got
got
blocked,
him.
but just not having that either secondary guy with Cade on the floor or when Cade's off the floor. I mean, Marcus Sasser hit a three, but hit a couple, sorry, but they missed Jaden Ivey's like change of pace, speed. Like it just felt like it was a half court game for much of the night for Detroit. And credit to Indiana, like you said, their defense.
Yeah.
Like Nemhard was the guy who will probably get a lot of the credit for the job on Cade, but there was times where Cade would drive and there's three guys around him. Like Nemhard on his hip, Turner in front of him at the rim, and then one of their wings coming across, whether it's Siakam or someone else. It was just, yeah, and I think that's a big reason why we saw Cade have one of his worst games of the season, I would think. He had 7 turnovers, still had 20 and 9, but just never really got it going. So, look, I'm with you for sure. Definitely the first game they've really missed. It's really just been clear how much they miss Ivy.
Yeah, I think too, like, I don't think Sasser played terrible. And I don't think backup point guard is his perfect role. I think for now, letting him handle the rock with the bench unit's fine. But the thing that stands out for me, do you remember that turnover where TJ McConnell was pressing and Stu and Sasser, like as soon as he inbounded it to Sasser, I think the ball touched Stu at the same time. That sequence I feel like stood out, and Cade dunking at the end and missing that dunk. It just kind of like sums up the game very well, that it just felt like it wasn't their night. But I think Indiana played really well defensively. Even when Cade was putting Nemhard in the post, they sent the double. They were ready for the rotations. I just think we really struggled without somebody else to take the ball out of Cade's hands and to be able to create some offense, because I feel like I never want Malik Beasley or THJ driving to the rim trying to make something happen.
And that was the thing as well. Like, so their plan, like this is a very brief way of putting it, but it was just to make anyone beat you but Cade. And unfortunately tonight, like that was probably, I thought Tobias has been solid to good since Ivy went down. Man, he
Agreed.
had a stretch there where I think he had 3 turnovers in a row in the second quarter. Like he was off. Beasley had 1 of 10, 1 of 8. Like there was open shots there for them at times, and they just like no one could hit a shot. What did they finish here? 36 of 91. That must be low 40%, and then 9 of 36 from 3,
25% from 3.
25%. So I mean, THJ was hot in the first quarter. I'm not sure he hit a 3 after then. So they just like could not buy a bucket. And like you said, Indiana, all credit to them, but it also just felt like it wasn't the Pistons' night at the same time.
Yeah, Tobias had a tough sequence. I feel like he had back-to-back turnovers, I think, where I feel like Indiana was pressing. We couldn't inbound it to Cade, and Tobias had to be the one to bring it up. And I think one time he just lost his dribble and it rolled out of bounds. And I think the next possession, if I remember correctly, then he was just dribbling it, one off his foot, and that one went out of bounds too. So I feel like we just made some of those mistakes that, like, just too many turnovers on just tough mistakes like that, where I do think Indiana, by denying Cade the ball, him not being able to bring it up, forces somebody like Tobias, who isn't the best dribbler, to bring it up. So it was just a tough night, and I think a really tough night for Beasley. That was an abnormal night for him. 1 for 10 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. He had some good looks, and they just didn't fall. But it felt like this was one of those games that, especially when they're doubling Cade, we needed somebody else to, get hot from 3, have one of those typical Beasley nights, and we just didn't get it tonight.
Yeah, and look, Tim Hardaway finished with 25 points. So when you look at the box score, someone else did come to the party and step up, but it feels like it's been without Ivy. You've normally had Cade. Like, it doesn't help Cade had one of his worst games, but still, you normally have Cade. You might have one of the vets, and then, Sasser might have a little cameo there. Like, it's just been more of a team effort, and tonight it just felt like an off night for most of the team, and that's where Ivy's absence comes straight to the forefront because, yeah, I mean, last time they played Indiana in Indiana, I think Ivy was both Cade and Ivy were electric, but I'm pretty
Was
sure
that in
Ivy
season tournament too? One of
yeah,
those?
that was
Yeah.
yeah. Like Ivy was incredible that game, and so you look, they missed him tonight. But I just want to shout out Mark here. Thank you so much for the tip, Mark. I appreciate that. But as we were saying, Indiana's plan to pressure K all game absolutely paid off, and I
Hmm.
think Mark's joining me tomorrow morning. He's a fellow Aussie after the Suns game, so really excited to have Mark on. And thank you for the tip. But yeah, pressuring Cade, they sold out on him, and man, the rest of the team had their struggles. Is there any positives you can take away from this?
So I feel like Asar had a couple good sequences where I remember he had one strong take to the rim where I think they were trying to get Cade the ball and they were just denying again, and Asar had a good take. I really, really like though when Asar leads the break, when he grabs a rebound and he just gets out and goes. He had that one where he took it coast to coast and glided through the air like he always does. And I think Duran had a good game. He was very active on the boards, 8 for 8 from the field. Guarding Miles Turner is a little bit of a different story, but I think there was a lot to like with Asar tonight and just his on ball. Just the more that we see him as an on ball creator, getting those reps. I enjoyed what I saw out of Asar tonight.
Yeah, he definitely had some really nice moments. That play you're referencing, I think he took it the length of the court, had a really nice
Mm-hmm.
crossover and lefty finish. I think he actually had two left-handed finishes, which was good for him because that's his offhand. But he did some solid things. I'm trying to find some other like this. Like when I look up and down the box score right now, Ron Holland probably that was like I feel like the Ron we got tonight was the Ron we had in the first 10 games of the season. Just
Yeah.
a bit out of control, a bit undisciplined. He let Siakam get in his head a couple of times there and force some plays.
I thought it was
Just on
interesting with Ron.
yeah,
He didn't play at all during the first quarter, and then came in and had the Siakam duties. The offensive foul on the screen was a tough call.
yeah.
He had a rough night. I saw THJ shot 11 free throws, which that didn't stand out to me
Oh
at all.
wow.
Yeah, it's the same. I
Wow.
was like, oh, he shot 11 free throws. That was nuts. But yeah, I guess it's just one of those games that I wish they would have had the energy that they had in the second half. I just wish that we would have seen it all game, especially with the 6th seed on the line. Felt like
Yeah.
this was one of the most important games out of the season, outside of that Bucks game when we were trying to get into the in-season tournament. I just felt like this one mattered more, and I wish that it didn't feel disappointing. I guess I was hoping to not feel that way.
Yeah, no, the first half, and I think it was at the second quarter. I know they did get out to like 18 in the third as well, but there was a point in that second quarter where Siakam couldn't miss, and it was just almost like felt like Indiana were just clowning our boys on their home court, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, this is just it was reminding me a little bit of that Bucks game. Now I know the Pistons came back, but the Pistons just never had the energy like you mentioned. Cade, I think, got off to a horrible start in the first half. It was just THJ was kind of the only one I feel like in that first quarter, and then I think that's just what leaves us feeling so flat. Is it's like, man, it's not like it was a close game and they lost. Like they had their chance, but just the beginning to that game, that just didn't feel like they were fully locked in.
I think they struggled finding ways to get Cade the ball. I saw a possession late that I really liked where they used Cade as a screener instead, which he popped afterwards and he was open. So I do wonder if, because I mean their next stretch of like 6 or 7 games is all playoff teams. So I wonder if this is kind of a wake up call for this. I think they got like a 5 game road trip coming up too. So maybe this is one of those games though that's like a good game to look back on film wise. And when they're doubling Cade, how can we get somebody else going, or how can we get more creative and in getting Cade to the ball? Because this next string of games, this next 7 or 8 games or whatever, leads you straight up to the trade deadline. So it makes me wonder, after this set of games, like will this string of games determine kind of which way Trajan will go at the deadline?
Oh, definitely. And I know they have, so they've got the Suns at home. I don't have the next few games, but you're right. The competition does get a lot more tougher. And whilst I think Trojan most recently said we weren't like these weren't the exact words, but basically they're ahead of where they expected to be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been, I don't know, necessarily reports, but discussion around the team now potentially not being this dumping ground and looking to maybe acquire players that can help. It's still, yeah, if like they've just lost one game. Maybe this is an off night. And I think, like you said, it's a game we can look back on and it was a bit of a wake up call. I'd like to think that's the case, but it's still, if they do have a bit of a slide here, it will be very interesting to see how the conversation around the Pistons at the deadline changes.
Yeah, I feel like my opinion of what I want Trajan to do will change after every game, whether they win or they lose. Let me ask you: does a game like this does it make you think that they need to go get like a secondary creator when we see what happens when Cade is doubled all game and they just can't get him going?
Yeah, honestly, I felt like they need to get one the whole time. Not just saying this now because they lost. I think it could even be. I keep throwing this name out. It's not the most realistic, but like if they somehow got Marcus Smart, um, a guy like that who can just handle the ball a little bit. Who did they have on last stream? They brought up Dante Exum. Oh no, Bryce
Oh, that's
Simon.
an
I had
interesting
him.
name.
Yeah, I had Bryce. Sorry, yeah, I had Bryce on the Pistons Jack chats this week. So go watch it if you haven't. But he brought up Dante Exum's name from the Mavs, like secondary ball handler guy who's 3-point shot. I don't think he's played a lot. He's been injured, but just a guy who can handle the ball, got some length, can do a little bit defensively. Like I think just bringing in someone like that would be really helpful. Full stop. I think I've cooled on bringing in an Ingram or Levine type player,
Yeah, I
whereas
agree.
before this last month, I was more leaning towards potentially that. But now I've just liked what we've seen from the core recently, like, and that's why I just like to think like tonight's just a wake up call. I think is a good way to put it, the way you said it, because Indiana, like we can't forget, they're like 8-1 since the new year. Like every time the Pistons were on their winning streaks, Indiana, every time I check the standings, they were winning games. So Pacers are good.
They
Like
looked
they
good
started
tonight.
slow.
Yeah.
They're like, just for those that might not have been watching a lot of games or keeping up with the NBA, like this Pacers team is way different to the one they played in. I want to say it was in November when the Pistons won. So
Kyle Metz and I did a little collab on an article about a week ago. We actually used when he was on for one of your chat shows. We used the MPJ trade in that article. We kind of went like a baseball metaphor of like hitting for a single, hitting for a double. The home run was Brandon Ingram, the triple was MPJ, and like a three-teamer. The ones that I liked the most from where it felt like Detroit maybe wouldn't have to give up an asset or, not a young player was a CJ McCollum idea, which I feel like he could fit in kind of that similar role that Ivy was in of like he could start next to Cade. He could be, your bench point guard. What do you think, though, about Lonzo as an option?
another great name. I would be open to them going
I
after. Like
feel
I
like
think
he fits in that Marcus Smart, Dante Exum
yeah,
kind of role.
definitely. No, that's a great name to bring up. And I've got this article here you guys wrote because I'm just putting it in the chat now because I went to plug it the other day when I had Kyle on a post game show, and I'd just seen it in the publishing platform, and I just assumed it was published. So I
Oh
was
yeah.
like talking about it, and then Kyle came on. He's like, "Oh, it's not live yet." So I've just dropped a link in there, guys. But please go check out Detroit Bad Boys, no matter what. But this article in particular, I did have a squiz over it before it was posted, but Kyle and Robbie did an excellent job. But I love the
Appreciate
name
that.
Lonzo Ball because, like we were just talking about, like can handle the ball, can pass, good size. I'm not sure where his defense is at since he's come back from all
Hmm.
these injuries, but he's a smart defender, I'd like to say. So,
I wonder too if the New Orleans connection, he credited Vincent with his shot turnaround, with his ability to shoot the long ball, and then just with Trajan. I just wonder if that connection there just gives him a little more incentive to want to be traded to Detroit if that were to come up. But um, yeah, I feel like I flip flop every day of what they could do at the deadline. I think I'll obviously trust what Trajan has in mind, and he hasn't steered us wrong so far. But it will be interesting. I think it will be telling, at least from a fan standpoint, of being able to read his mind of like where he thinks we can go from here.
I think though the names we just brought up and the names you brought up, like, is like if I had to put money on the type of player they're going to bring in, it's going to be of the Exum Lonzo Ball type of talent is where I would go. I just can't see them making a big move, and I just think the vets they have, and yes, tonight was bad, but on the whole, the past 5 weeks has just been there's really something special. I think building with the young core and the vets, and even if they have a little 3-game losing streak here, I just would like to think what I've seen is something that's sustainable for this season with the team, like them winning still around 36 games to 41 maybe, with this current roster. I think they can still do that and just make a little move to bring in some more ball handling. I think that's what I want to see.
And I think the vibes in the locker room, like the Pistons social media team has been sharing a lot of cool clips, with the wrestling bell. And so the vibes in that locker room are super high. I used to be a pro trade Beasley guy. I remember writing an article for DBB about why we should trade Beasley. And now I just think, he just brings so much swagger to the team and so much confidence for the young guys. Let's say THJ had to go out in a trade, because I also feel like THJ is bringing that same kind of like vet presence that Beasley and Tobias. Because especially if we're going to go like a CJ McCollum route, we would have to give up THJ. Are you at the point where you wouldn't want to give him up, or is it kind of like Beasley and then THJ below that?
Yeah, like I love what THJ's brought. I think he's been much better lately. Awesome to start the season, but I think he's probably the one vet. Even with the way Tobias has been playing, like I still would have THJ third. Yeah, he's probably like I've like grown to really like having him on the team and his vibes and his play, obviously. But I think he's the guy, just with the salary he's on, that if they do make a move, it's kind of probably going to be him.
It almost has to be him, or I
Yeah.
feel like Fontecchio.
Yes, well, that's the other guy, Fontecchio. Yeah.
Dude,
So
I don't know what has happened between last year and this year, but it feels like he's dribbling so much this year. And every time he puts the ball on the floor, I'm like convinced he's going to turn it over. I wish he would just be more of a
yeah,
catch and shoot player, but
I know.
I wouldn't mind moving Fontecchio at the deadline, especially if it's like if you're bringing in an Exum or a Lonzo type, because I think
Yeah.
those forward minutes, you could give more forward minutes to Asar, to Ron, and even Bobby. I would like to see Bobby get some more run too. But I feel like a Fontecchio trade for a guard kind of balances out the roster a little bit better, where you can get a little bit more playmaking from the guard position, but then also open up some more forward minutes for some of our young guys too.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that for sure. Like I would rather keep THJ over Fontecchio just because I was so high on Tech before the season, but
Me too. And I couldn't
yeah,
believe we only got him for 7 or 8
I
million,
know
whatever he's
we're
on.
all celebrating, but now
Yeah.
that deal's kind of like seems the right value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no
Agreed.
shade to Tech, he's just like at the second he puts the ball on the deck, like it's a
Yeah. It's like,
turnover waiting to happen. Yeah,
what's going on?
or he's gonna force a drive. Like it's just really it's hard to watch. Like
But then
I
he
do
hit
like
that transition three tonight where he caught it
yeah,
on the right wing and just let it fly. And it's like, all right, that's the Fontecchio I
yeah,
remember from last year.
just shoot it. I
Yeah.
got to the point where I'm just like, I don't care if there's a hand in your face. I'd rather you shoot it than
Me
try
too.
and
The
like
dribble.
go past the closeout.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I like the CJ name as well. And I think CJ McCollum, that name, that would be more of a surprise if they got him. But if the Pistons, I think that's a move they maybe make if they get through this 6 or 7 game stretch for the deadline and there's still a few games above 500. I could see them maybe looking into that. Once again, that Pelicans tie. And I think he would be like defensively a nightmare for this team, but
For sure.
offensively,
Yeah.
can you imagine him tonight? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know
that
exactly what he's
tonight's the
playing this
perfect
season.
example of
Mm,
where somebody like him would have came in
yeah.
perfectly for what the Detroit's offense would have needed tonight.
And the thing I like about CJ as well is I could really like because Jaden Ivey, I think CJ's a better scorer than JI right now, but I think obviously Ivy's the better long-term solution.
Mhm.
Once Ivy's back next season, or I know that's not official yet, but when JI's back next season healthy, like I could really see CJ settling into like a 6-man role. Because he's like 35 now, I feel like 34.
Mhm.
He's older than I think people expect. I could see him really fitting into that role. He'd been expiring next season. I don't mind that either. So that's a good name to bring up.
I think so. I'm trying to remember back to our article. Yeah, specifically for them wanting to get off his money, you could offer THJ and Simone, but CJ's got like 31 million or something next season. So looking ahead, like let's say the Pistons make the play in and get to the playoffs. If they were to lose their pick and then they have the flexibility of trading those future picks now, since this forever protected pick would finally convey. You would have a $31 million expiring deal in CJ McCollum. And then remember, Tobias Harris, I think, will be $27 million expiring next year. So if there was ever a time to go and get a guy, to
Yep.
put next to Cade, you would have the money to do it and you would have the picks to do it
There
as
we
well.
now we're cooking.
Yeah,
You're
that we're
sell-
cooking.
you're selling me. You're selling because that's the thing. Like, I think sometimes I'm guilty of it as well. Like, it's hard to look forward like that much and project. That's why like I could never ever work in a front office. But like what you just laid out then, it's hard. Like when we say like, oh, they're going to trade for CJ McCollum, I think fans and Nate thought is like, oh, he's taking JO starters minutes and he's going to be here for the next 3 years. Whereas it's no, there's a lot of value in that contract and how you can move that with, like you said, Tobias to go get a guy for 50 million or whatever they're
Mhm.
combined 60 million. And you have your picks back. Like we're going to go a couple more minutes here and there's 2 more things I want to ask. So, and now I'm blanking on the first one. Oh man, that's really bad.
CJ
That's so
trade,
bad.
Tobias trade.
I'm blanking. I really wanted to ask it. Well, I was just going to say to you, oh, it was about the pick, right? That they owe. Where are
Mhm.
you at? Like for me, I just want them to make the playoffs and get rid of that pick. So they've got them all back. That's where I'm at. Where are you
So
at
I
this
was
point?
reading some comments on Detroit Bad Boys today, and somebody brought up like the outcome of where could this season go? And so I was trying to think of it like if they make the play in and don't make it to the playoffs, like I feel like that's a successful season. So let's say they make the play in, but they end up losing and they keep their pick. So let's say they're picking 12th or something like that. I think I would be happy with that scenario considering my expectations at the beginning of the season. The fact that they even made it to the play-in, I feel like would be a success. My ultimate goal now is I want them to get to the playoffs. If they could get to the 6th seed, that would be amazing. If they could get in the play-in and then get one of those 7th or 8th seeds and finally lose that pick, I would prefer that just to be able to open up that flexibility. I don't think I would have said that at the beginning of the season because I think my expectations at the beginning of the year was that they weren't going to be good
Yeah.
enough to make it to the playoffs. I think worst case scenario though, and I haven't figured out yet how this could happen, but their pick this year is 1 through 13 protected.
Yeah.
So if
I know what you're
somehow
saying.
they were to make the play in, but then lose and end up as the last team in the lottery at 14, so they don't make the playoffs and they lose their
Oh,
pick, I think that's the only scenario I don't want. And I would be happy with, even if they lose in the play in and keep their pick, I feel like this team could still benefit
yeah.
from another young guy, and especially if you have the Toronto second rounder, that should be an early second. Like maybe there's something you can do there. I think most of all, it's just like don't lose in the play-in and then end up as the 14th
Yeah.
team, and we'll be all right.
Can I just say though that scenario obviously sucks because they wouldn't have a first round pick, at least unless they made a trade. But there's that scenario though of them still like you can still make some big trades in the summer because you have your picks back. So like, but yeah. Where I want to just end it here is what like you kind of just touched on your expectations, but just vibes wise, how are you feeling about this team? Not only this season, but just your overall hope, I guess, and moving forward in the next, 2, 3, 4 years.
I feel like this is the most optimistic I've been in quite a long time for the Pistons. I can remember last year, like when Monty would be talking in his press conference about not wanting to play 11 guys in the first quarter, and it'd be like, okay, he's starting to like reflect, he's starting to make changes, and then the next game would happen and he would play 11 guys in the first quarter again. So I just feel like the turnaround from last year, I think JB Bickerstaff is like the perfect coach for this team. Like it seems like a total culture shift. He did an interview recently. I forget the name of the podcast. It might be Run It Back. I just saw the clip maybe today or yesterday. It's with like Michelle Beadle, Chandler Parsons, and Lou Williams. And so JB Bickerstaff coached Chandler Parsons in Houston and then in Memphis. And just like the banter that they had back and forth, like they were making fun of each other. And it just like, I have no doubt that JB is the same way with like the guys on our team. So I'm happy with Trajan. I'm happy with JB. I'm happy that we're finally seeing some growth out of our young guys. So for me, I'm in like the most optimistic I've been in the last few years. I guess the big question mark to me is how do we take that next step? And it's like, I've always felt there was going to be some sort of consolidation with some of Weaver's draft picks to kind of maybe do like a 2-for-1 deal or a 3-for-1 and, try to trade some people. But at this point, it's like, I feel like the guy that if I had to pick one that I was like most skeptical of moving forward would be Duren, but he's been more active defensively. Like you're starting to see some improvements with him recently. So for the next few years, as long as we have Cade, like I think we're going to be okay. It's just a matter of there are so many different ways that you could build this team moving forward, getting them to the next level. And that's what I'm like most interested in or most excited about to see how Trajan pulls that off.
Yeah, you're exactly like, and I think I'm with you because like the fact there is so many ways now this team can go is really like what gives me the most hope and why if they do make that consolidation trade this summer, I'll be cool with it. But if they just decide to make some moves on the margins or maybe just, bring in another veteran, like I'm cool with it because I think my biggest fear was if you win like if they didn't win 30 games this year, and I know they're still got to do it, but like I'd be pretty down just because I'd be starting to think, well, Cade's 24, year 5 next year. Like, do we actually have to rebuild again? But I think like Cade's ascension this season has been like, that's been the main driver for me of just being like, wow. Because I'll be honest, before this season, I was like, he's definitely going to be a top 30 guy and an all-star in this league. But the fact like all NBA conversations are real for him in year 4, I think has taken me pleasantly by surprise and is what gives me the hope where that like you can bring him back next year, get a little bit more help, but I kind of feel like he can get them to the playoffs. Like I just feel like he's that guy now that you have Cade and a functional NBA team and you can get to a 8, 7, 6 seed. So it's just about be patient and look for that not perfect, but that right guy to really swing for. And I just don't know if that's why I'm off the Ingram and Levine thing right now. And definitely Jimmy Butler. Not that that's ever been a real conversation, but yeah.
I think in a way we could look at this Pacers game tonight and almost, I feel like Cade could take it as a compliment that like his gravity now, or like his importance to our team is so big that Indiana went like all out to stop him and to make somebody else beat us. So in a way, it's almost like the rest of the league is starting to take notice too, you know. And I think ultimately that's the best part about this season is the jump that Cade is taking, because ever since we drafted him, it's like, what kind of guy can he turn into? And the fact that, you know, you're right, not even top 30. It's like I enjoy that. You know, I'll listen to Sam Vecini or somebody talk about like, hey, we might be talking about all NBA, not just all star. Like he could be an all NBA player, and that beats, you know, losing to the Pacers on an off night every single night. So
It really does. No, and like, yeah, it sucks when you like tonight. It's like, oh man, like I've gotten so used to doing these now, and we're winning, and I gotten a bit ahead of myself, especially during
yeah.
that 5-game win streak when they lost to the Warriors. I was so negative after that game, and then I was just like, hang on, like
Yeah, that's what
we
I
just
mean,
win
dude.
this
It's
stuff.
like
I
trade
man, I got
everybody.
literally, man, I got ahead of myself, and I'm like, they need to like just in my head, I'm like, they need to do this, this, and this. Then I'm like, actually, then they come out and win another 2, and look, they lose tonight, but Indiana are a really good team. They did outplay the Pistons, as much as it pains me to say,
Yeah.
but that rivalry feels like it's back a little bit. So that's always good fun, and they play
Yeah.
again in 2 weeks' time.
Going back to the Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest days of the Pacers rivalry. Yeah.
That's it. But Bobby, Robbie, my man, been an absolute pleasure. You are welcome anytime to join the stream. Shoot me a DM whenever you want to get up here. But please, before you jump off, tell the people all the amazing writing you're doing for Detroit Bad Boys and anything else you've got going on and where they can follow along with you.
Yeah. Check us out on DetroitBadBoys.com. If you do not have an account yet, it's a great little community over there. A bunch of people who enjoy talking Pistons hoops, love Pistons basketball. So a great little community over there. And then follow me on Blue Sky at Bobby Buckets 313. Jack, it was a pleasure, man. So glad that we finally got to do this, to get to meet you. And oh, real quick, before I head off, I don't know if you remember this, but I was looking back at our Twitter messages. And in May last year, I reached out to you. And I think this is back when you were doing like the kind of like the 3 subjects, like your 25-minute videos,
Yeah.
kind of like the
Yeah.
locked on format. And so
Yeah.
I reached out to you and I was asking you like, hey, how do you film your videos? How did you make your layout? And you responded to me. You told me about StreamYards. So you helped me kind of get started into like the podcasting world, that switched over to Detroit Bad Boys and writing for them now. So just a big kind thank you from me to you about just being able to respond to me and help me get started with all this. So I really appreciate you.
Oh man, thank you so much. No sweat at all. I remember. Yeah, I do remember. I have scrolled up. So no, like,
Yeah.
no, of course, man. Because that's like when I had Bryce on the other day.
Yeah,
Like,
your guys' video I watched today, and you
yeah,
guys were talking about that, and I thought it was very
that's
fitting that I wanted to share that with you on the same day that I
yeah,
watched that. Yeah.
exactly, man. It's the exact same thing. Like Bryce, yeah, not even comparing our situations, but like I just had just got on. I'd always been on Twitter, but I'd never like actually posted or definitely hadn't ever DM'd anyone. And Bryce started doing it, and Bryce replied to me. So, oh man, I'm so glad to hear that I just helped you in some small way. So that's really cool, man. So thank
For
you so
sure,
much. That
brother.
means the
And
world.
we'll hopefully we'll do this again when we can talk about a win next time.
Please, man.
Yeah,
Please come back. You're
for
always
sure,
welcome.
brother.
And guys, go follow Bobby and all his amazing work.
Thanks, Jack. We'll talk to you, brother.
All right, man.
See
Catch
you.
you. All right, Lewis, I sent you a link, but I'm not sure if you're gonna pop up. The link's in your DMs, so feel free to jump up. But while we wait for Lewis, I'm just gonna go through some comments here, guys. And Derek Brown, you've really caught me off guard here, man. Grew up 20 minutes away from TJ McConnell in high school. Still my favorite player in the NBA. You know what? I respect TJ's game, but he annoys the hell out of me. But I respect my guy, Derek Brown. So I'm going to live with that one for now. But shout out to you, Derek. Devon, what's going on, brother? Wanted to show some love, but I'll watch this later at work. Appreciate you. What else we got in here? Oh, we got Lewis. I didn't think he was going to be joining.
How you
You
doing, Jack?
surprised me, man.
Oh man, how you doing, Jack? You doing all right, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
That's
How are
good. That's
you?
good. It could be better, but the losses like this are what separate the true fans from the kind of bandwagons. I mean,
Facts.
you know what it is, man. It's been a rough couple years, so one loss, it's not going to change my optimism for this season, man. So
I love it. I love it,
yeah,
man. Well, first time you've been on the show, can you just give us all a brief background about your Pistons fandom, where it started and how you got to here?
yeah. So I was a little too young for the '04 going to work team, and I wish I was old enough to appreciate it. I got into the Pistons, I would say, when Brandon Knight was drafted. That era, and
Oh, we're about the same time then. I was
yeah,
Andre Drummond
yeah, Andre
that year,
Drummond,
2012.
uh, dude, Josh Smith, all that, Greg Monroe, like all those guys. Man, I thought Stanley Johnson was the second coming, and then it was just
Oh.
like, yeah, it was some rough years, but we just pushed through. So I'm just happy that we have a team that we could get behind now. Seeing that
Well,
they're
that's the thing,
competitive.
man. So you and I, I feel like Brandon Knight was a year or two before Andre. So we've been following this team through probably it has to be the darkest patch in franchise history. It has to be
Yeah,
because the
yeah,
Pistons are one of the teams in the NBA. So,
yeah.
but I think that's what's made, I'm so glad you're optimistic, because I think that's what's made us so grateful of the past this season, but the past, 5 weeks, I want to say,
Yeah.
um, so man, talk to me. What do you want to talk about the game? We can talk about team
Yeah, yeah,
overall. The
yeah. I
floor is
actually
yours.
did. I did want to talk about the game, man. I was gonna say, I definitely agree with Bobby. We definitely miss having a secondary ball handler. Seeing guys like Tobias dribble the ball off their feet, kind of bothered me. But at the same time, I understand that that's outside of his game. He doesn't really do that. So, I mean, it felt like no one had it. Beasley couldn't knock down a shot. Cade's getting doubled and triple teamed, and it's a little frustrating when you see Hallie just talking crap. I'm like, dude, you're not seeing the defense that Cade is, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. It's pretty frustrating at times, but I think we'll be all right. I definitely think we should swing a trade for a backup point guard for sure. Sasser's definitely a scorer, not a passer, man.
Yeah, and I love Marcus. I just think sometimes he's just a bit small, and they just need more ball handling overall, and playmaking. So I think a lot of fans would agree with you. I know I certainly do.
Yeah, I don't want them to give up too many assets, though. I agree with you too when you guys were talking about different trades. Like, if obviously it would be nice to not give up too much. CJ sounds like the one that makes the most sense, like short term, solves the issue for the now, but we're not tied up to him long term. Lonzo sounds nice too. I'm not gonna lie. To have another big guard that plays defense, can shoot 40% from three, coming off the bench would be nice. But it's just the injuries that scare me a little bit. But I don't know.
No,
Is
for
there
sure.
anyone? Is there anyone else that you think could be a good option besides those guys you were talking about?
Honestly, man, I suck with trades. But straight up, I'm not gonna sit you. It's just never.
Yeah,
I've tried to get into it, but I remember I learned my lesson early days on Twitter. I posted a trade. And this is embarrassing, but this was back before the 2022 draft where the Pistons had pick 5. I posted this on Twitter that the Pistons should trade pick 5 and someone else for DeAndre Ayton, for the Suns. And
man.
I got appropriately rinsed. I deserved all of it, but at the time I just didn't know ball, and I got
I
cooked.
mean,
So yeah,
I mean,
rightfully so.
to be fair, he was pretty good in Arizona. When he was with Phoenix, I mean, he was pretty good. I could probably see the vision at the time, right? But with hindsight, hindsight's 2020, right? So, I mean, it's okay. We've all had those kind of takes, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it
But
is what it is.
to try answer your question, obviously, I think we threw out Marcus Smart. Bryce Simon brought up Dante Exum the other day. I really like CJ. I really do see a vision there where he can help this team this season and next. And I don't think you have to go up too many assets. I think YouTube user threw in a good trade here. See if I can find it in the chat. But here we go. So because just for some context, New Orleans because of how disastrous their season is, CJ's a guy they might want to move to get under the tax. So you could go Sasa, THJ, and Wendell Moore. I think you might need to add a little bit more, but like that's a deal. Like I like these players, but I'll be willing to probably do that. Like, because I think CJ's a bucket. Like even if he's a bit older now, like he would help this team so much.
Yeah, I agree. How much do you think we would have to give up for like a Clarkson from Utah?
Man, that's a great question.
Because like
I
feel like he's just he's a flamethrower off the bench, similar to Beasley, but he can actually handle the rock a little bit, create his own shot. Where Beasley has to kind of come around curls and keep it quickly to catch and shoot. So that little pump fake into the floater in the lane. I just feel like we need a guy that could just handle the rock a little bit. Besides
like
Cade.
that name. I like that name. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what his contract and stuff is, but that I like that name. Like I think CJ's like a better scorer night in, night out. But like if you're talking about scoring and like Lonzo and the other names you brought up, like Jordan Clarkson's a bucket. Like and he can handle the ball.
I think the only thing I'd be worried about is him and Holland boxing in the back, bro. That was pretty funny, man, when they squared up. But I mean, it's basketball, man. They could squash that. But Utah's not doing anything this year, man. So yeah.
Can I ask you? I just want to get some of your thoughts on the young guys. Just let's start with Cade. Like maybe I'll phrase it this way. Like, where were you at Cade before this season to where you are now? Has a lot changed, or did you always see him as this guy? Like,
since day one, I've always seen it. To be honest, like. I've had friends of mine telling me, "Oh, you're crazy. Green's better. This person's better." I'm like, y'all just watch highlights. You don't actually watch the game. Like he's a legit 3-level scorer. You know what I'm saying? He plays defense. You can't teach size. He's 6'6", I think 7-foot wingspan, I believe. And I don't know. You just see it, man. Like he never had spacing. You see what we got this year out of him, and we just put some. I'm not trying to downplay our vets. Okay, I'm appreciative of all of them, but. We could do better around Cade is all I'm saying. Like I love Beasley, best value contract in the league. Hardaway, streaky as ever. And then, Tobias definitely is not really lived up to what I expected from him this year. But, just with that little bit of help, 3 vets, has really helped turn this around. Cade looks like all NBA. It's really sad if he doesn't start for the East in the All-Star game. Yeah. But the fact that LaMelo got so many votes over him is just blowing my mind because it's like when it comes to Detroit, it feels like the field goal is moved, the goalpost is moved. You know what I'm saying? Like his rookie year for rookie of the year, it was about wins, right? Not about stats. Now when it comes to him being in the All-Star game, it's like, well, why are we putting a guy in there that's all about stats and he doesn't get wins? So
I think I'll be honest here, like, because I feel you, but I think the LaMelo thing is like LaMelo has been like one of the most popular basketball players, full stop, since he was like 14. Like he's been on YouTube. Like you go on, you look at his Instagram following, it's one of the biggest, and like that's why like I just never really probably saw Cade becoming a starter, just only due to the fan vote, not like just because of the popularity of LaMelo. But I feel you, like it's frustrating. But he's going to make the team for sure. Like, if he doesn't make the team, man, I'm going to fly back over to Detroit and I don't know what I'm going to do, man. But he's going to be on the team.
We're gonna have to riot, man, because that's not cool. Man.
But no, Cade is the man. I think like last season made me not like waver in thinking that he wouldn't ever be an all-star, but just made me take time to pause and be like, okay, maybe he's not like a top 15 type talent, but I was wrong. And I'm so glad like that I haven't had that thought ever again. But what about the 2022 draftees I know Ivy's injured, but Ivy and JD, thoughts on those two?
Oh, I love Jaden Ivey, man. I really do. That you hear everyone say the fire and ice, right? K's that, he's gonna control the tempo and Ivy's a blur in the fast court. But Ivy's progression in the half court is what's got me excited. His shooting has looked great. Fred Vincent, I think, we've seen his work with Ivy. Out of all the players he's worked with this year, Ivy's improvement has been the most noticeable in my eyes. I mean, I think he was shooting like 40% before he broke his leg, right?
Yeah, 41% on the whole season.
Yeah.
And that was with a pretty, like, a cool stretch in there of like 10 games. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then with Duren, I'm not going to lie, out of the core players, he's the one that I've kind of come down on a little bit. His defense is so rough, man. And I look at all the teams that torch us, and it's always a stretch five. And I know that everyone hears that a lot, but if there wasn't so many of them on these good teams that we would eventually face in the playoffs, I probably wouldn't care. But you look in New York, they got Karl Anthony Towns. You look at Boston, they got Porzingis. Even Al Horford could stretch the floor. They could throw 2 7-footers out there at the same time.
Yeah.
Pacers
tonight.
Oh, Pacers, yeah. Miles Turner. I mean, he had 28? He had his career.
He had 8 threes or something, bro.
Yeah, 8 for 11 from 3, man. I'm just like, every time too. It's like, without fail, Miles Turner is gonna have a great game against us. And every time I see him shooting, I look for Duren and I see 2 feet in the paint, and I'm like, what are you doing? We need to just do something else, man. Like, if Duren's gonna be in the paint, then we need to have someone else guarding Turner on the perimeter. But then you end up putting your stronger defender in Asar on him when he should be on Siakam, and it just causes a lot of mismatch problems, and that's where you get into the foul trouble. And Cade was able to overcome it against the Knicks, right? But this game, I'm glad he kind of, he didn't play too aggressive, but nothing else was going for us, though, man. It was a rough game, rough watch, but yeah,
I like what you point out though with JD, because it for him it's like it is initially what you see, like where his position is on defensively, but I like how you just laid it out there about all the repercussions of his lack of defensive position at times and how that affects Asar, taking him away from a Siakam. And then there's times tonight where you saw, I do think Asar was off for this instance, but you saw Siakam just hunting to get THJ guarding him or Beasley. And it was just a bucket every time. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. JD struggles. It just has this ripple effect on the rest of the defense, which stands out the most tonight. But he's been better recently, but it's just with the position he plays, it's something that's going to be hard to overcome.
Yeah, I'm not paying him a crazy amount of money to stay with us. We could go and find other rim runners that could do the same thing for cheap, to be honest. If he had shown me something more, like maybe a 10 or 15 footer to help stretch the floor a little bit, I don't need threes, but a little 10, 15 footer bank shot, you know what I'm saying? Something to keep the defense honest. He's too predictable. He's going to roll every single time he sets a pick. So at that point, the defense just has to decide, are we going to just blitz Cade or, play honest, I guess, and stop the lob. But I don't know, tonight where Cade didn't have it, it's just it just makes everything more noticeable, I guess. Everyone else's shortcomings really comes to light. So I don't want to get too down on the team. I'm still excited about them, but
is there maybe I'll ask you about Asar and Ron quickly, and then I want to talk about the rest of the season. So just thoughts on those two so far.
So Ron, he's exceeded my expectations, I would say. But to be honest, I think it's because of the situation that he's in. I think with our coach, JB's done a great job of putting guys in a good position to be successful, right? And Asar, I mean, I think I got my hopes a little too high on Asar's jumper, to be honest. In the offseason, I'm just seeing, you drink the Kool-Aid. You see him knocking down shots in the empty gym, and I'm like, man, the form looks smooth. I don't see a hitch. He's looking good, but the whole him being out most of the year with the blood clots, and then being sick recently, it's just hard for me to judge him. I feel like he's still got to get his legs under him. But he's our best defender, and he's an athletic freak. So it's only his second year.
Yeah, no, he's.
I don't want to say untradeable, but they're damn near like, I need to see another year or two at least before I think about moving off of those guys from the young core. Um, yeah, for me, I think
No,
Duran would be the only one that I'm like, it wouldn't hurt me to see him go. But everyone else, I'm like, I want us to hold on to them just to see what they become. That's all.
yeah, no, I'm with you. Like Asar and Ron, like there's something about having wings that size that are like, Asar's a better athlete, but Ron's still a really good athlete himself. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in those guys, and you want to give them more time. And I think, like you said, the situation for Ron in particular, like I think he's come to close to the perfect team in the sense of like he's not been asked to do too much. He can just
Yeah.
fill a role. Tonight he didn't have it, which has been rare for him recently, but JB only played him 7 minutes. He had that rough stretch and that was it for him. And I think that's good. A good way to handle Ron. So those two have definitely been a heap of fun. And I'm with you on like the ranking of the young players. Like
Yeah.
JD for me, like it's just been the positional value with him, like a center that, like you said, can't shoot, doesn't have the greatest bag offensively, obviously. Then defensively, it's like if you don't have much offensively, you got to be pretty goddamn good,
Yeah.
man. It
Yeah. You better
just
be like,
hasn't been.
yeah. You got to be like Jared Allen with the Cavs or something like that, man, where you're just sending back shots. Because, every time Stu comes out, I'm like, I see the difference in the defense. You know what I'm saying? He can move his feet better. He's blocking shots or at least contesting them pretty well. But yeah, man, I mean, if I had to rank them, bro, I'd probably obviously K's number one. I would have to say Ivy's 2, Asar's 3, Ron 4, and then Duran would obviously be last on my list just because of, again, that positional value. We could get another center to do the same thing for cheap. So
Yeah,
I
I'm with you.
haven't seen anything too crazy, but yeah, I think honestly, I think we'll make the playoffs though, man. I'm not with the plan. I think we'll make the playoffs. I got some faith.
I do too. I do too. And tonight sucks, but like it's one loss. Like I think they're like 11-3 in their last 14. Like
Yeah,
they're still
man.
one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Like
Yeah, I'm not mad, man. Last year we went through 28 straight losses. Like, I'm not mad. I'm happy.
they
I
were
just hate the Pacers though. But I
same,
can't
man.
stand them.
Same. I can't stand. The amount of like tweets I had typed out and then just I took a breath because I was like, if I post this, I'm gonna regret it.
Yeah,
Oh man, they annoy. There's something about Halliburton that just
yes,
gets me. Like him in particular,
yes,
I can't stand it because he was good last season,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like man, I'm like I don't know if your game backs up some of the
No,
stuff, but like I don't know. He won tonight, so yeah,
his
it hurts.
his team wrote that check that backed up his mouth tonight. So
Yeah.
I mean, like if we just needed someone else to step up, that was all. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna be off nights, right? But I just, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that Halliburton's game really warrants him being this cocky. Like I've seen him get shut down. A lot of his buckets come in like transition or someone
Oh
else
man.
is bringing him up, and it's just like when he screamed on the dunk, I'm like, bro, just tone it down.
Yeah.
Like he's
Bro,
acting like he
this
crossed
man.
someone over.
I was ready to like go like Cade had just cut it to 6 points, scoring over Nemhard.
Yeah,
Halliburton comes down, tries to ISO, takes some disgusting pull-up mid-range,
yeah,
bricks it. And I was ready to like go crazy, but
yeah,
then I think the Pacers ended up scoring 6 in a row, and I was like, man, I gotta shut my mouth. But
yeah,
like he had I'm with you. He like I will say like credit to him a little bit because
for sure.
that type of play when you're when you're winning, like it gets in the other team's head. Like so
Yeah,
it's annoying, it's painful for like me to watch, but I do have to like kind of give him some respect. Even if like
yeah,
you said, his game doesn't back it up. Like
yeah.
it all goes into the winning, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I give every player the respect, right? I'm not in the league, you know what I'm saying? These guys they're all great in their own way, you know what I'm saying? But I think what it was is I didn't like having to tolerate the Cade disrespect last year. Like, I remember
Yeah.
telling my friend, I was like, man, Cade is better than Hallie. And he's like, nah, you're crazy. Hallie's averaging 27 and 11 assists. I'm like, you got to understand the pieces that he has compared to what Cade has. Cade's working with no space, no like everything was just ideal for Halliburton. That fast paced run and gun offense,
Yeah.
But I told him, man, I was like, I'm telling you what's gonna happen next year. Like I'm telling you before the storm gets here, Cade's the guy, and I'm just glad that I've been validated with this season's play from Cade. So,
Yeah.
but
We,
yeah,
we've still got the guy here in Detroit. I'm not in
oh yeah,
Detroit, but
yeah,
we've got the best guy on the court. But
yeah,
actually, my man Austin, he brought up Colin Sexton, another Jazz guy. I don't know. Can someone tell me his contract? Because I like if he's got like 4 years on that, like maybe not. But if he's only got
yeah,
like 1 year, like I don't mind that for sure. He's a bucket. So that's
yeah.
another one of those guys.
He was a big part of why we lost to them. I
Yeah.
remember him. He's just a energizer, man. He's just all over the place. I mean, a little undersized, but he gets buckets, man. And he's pretty quick too. I mean, he could kind
Yeah.
of probably replicate a little bit of what Ivy brings,
Yeah.
in some ways. Not everything,
No, for
but
sure. For sure.
yeah.
Honestly, he's probably on par, if not better scorer overall than JI right now. He's been in the league longer.
Yeah, yeah.
Not about the 3-point shooting, but like, yeah, he's a bucket. So thoughts? I know you said playoffs. I feel like you're pretty optimistic, definitely on the team, but we're talking playoffs, aren't we?
Yeah.
6 seed or
Playoffs,
just
man.
you thinking just playoffs? Like there might be an 8 seed.
So to be honest, I don't. If you're in the play-in, I just don't feel like counting that. Like it's got to be 6 seed or better for me, man. If you're having to play, for those last spots, I just don't want to be in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like they already give me heart attacks as it is with the close games, and I don't need that. I need a for sure 4 games in the playoffs. Just guaranteed. But there's no one in the East that scares me really. I mean, besides Boston. I mean, of course, Milwaukee because they got Giannis. That guy, he's traveling all over the court, and he gets all the calls, man. And then of course that early game in the year, he goes like 15 for 15 from the free throw line. I'm like, come on, man. Like I just something about Giannis bothers me too, but that's a whole nother can of worms. I'm not about to open that up.
I'm sure we'll talk about him after a Bucks game. But what if the Pistons they make the 8 seed and that they do it? Or the 7 seeds, they do it through the play-in. Like you'll be good with that though.
Oh, absolutely. As long as they get it done, right? But I would just prefer for them to not have to go through that trial, right? Where, I mean, maybe it'd be good, to be in a game like that, right? I'm not sure how the format goes. Like, is it one and done like college, or like, is it dependent on your seating? I'm
I
not
think
familiar.
so is it with the play-in? I think so. The first round, 7 and 8 play each other. The loser of that plays the winner of 9 and 10. And
Okay.
then so whoever wins the 7 and 8 one goes to the 7th seed in the playoffs, and then the remaining 2 teams play for the 8th seed.
For the
If
8th
that
seed.
makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So the higher you are seeding, you have that extra chance basically to make it in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
I would have faith in us to pull that off if we end up getting stuck there. But I wouldn't mind it as long as they get in the playoffs. Experience is good for this young team. So as long as we could get in there, I'd be happy. Anything short of making the playoffs just wouldn't feel worth it losing that pick. So it's playoffs or bust for me. can't
Well,
accept
no,
losing that pick.
I'm all in on the playoffs. Like I
Yeah.
was never in on tanking this season, but I would have been like I probably wasn't expecting him to be this good. I don't know if you were, but I certainly wasn't. But yeah, now it's just like we're at the midpoint of the season pretty much. They're 21 and 20 in 41 games. They're sitting in the 9th seed, but they could still easily get up to that 7th seed. I think they play the Hawks this week in Atlanta, which will be another huge game because the Hawks are 21 and 19 to the Pistons 21 and 20. So like in a few
Yeah.
days' time, we could be talking about them being back up at 7th. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, Cade's historically played pretty well against them. They got that one kid though, man. He plays pretty good defense. I forget his name, but I know he's
Dyson Daniels.
Dyson Daniels. Yeah, that guy. He's different for sure. But uh, I got confidence in us, man. I just hope that this game didn't kind of expose, how to throw us off. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of rare for our whole team to go cold like that. But um, I hope we don't get stuck seeing K get blitzed like nonstop every game, man. That'll be kind of annoying for me. But
Well, I think, yeah, no, I was thinking that as well. I like you brought that up because I was like, man, I hope this isn't just what everyone does now. But I do think there's work, like the Pacers, like Nemhard, and I don't think they actually put TJ McConnell on Cade, but like those two in particular are like, they're the type of guards that are just pests. Like Nemhard, like Cade could not get that man like off his hip. Like he was just always there, always
yeah,
there. Like
yeah,
gets through screens. Like I think Nemhard's a very like quite a special defender in that sense.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't think every team's gonna have the personnel to do that. But I'm with you. Like I hope it doesn't go back to everyone doubling Cade. But
yeah,
like you said as well, man, I don't think Beasley's not gonna be that. He's not going to do that again for at least a few games. Like THJ was solid. Like the other
yeah,
guys will step up. Like so, yeah.
for sure, for
I agree
sure.
on that.
I agree with you, man. Yeah, I mean, we've been on a heater. We were kind of due for a rough game, honestly. I kind of had a feeling we were gonna be off tonight. I don't know why. It just kind of felt like it was the Pacers' turn to get a win on us, especially after we whooped
Yeah,
them in the in-season tournament. But what do we got? One more game against them, so we can split that
2
season
weeks
series.
time.
Okay, yeah, we can split that season series. We'll get our get back.
We'll get
But
back.
yeah, yeah. But I was gonna say I don't want to take up all the time, man. I don't know if you got other people that are trying to hop on the stream.
I don't think so. Not tonight, man. After wins, we normally get 4 or 5. But this is why I
Oh, okay.
appreciate you coming on. That, like you said at the start,
Yeah.
people who come on this stream, all of them are diehards. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's hard to
I can't
talk
call
when
anyone.
you gotta hold that
Everyone
up.
in here. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
man.
any final thoughts, man, before I let you go? Like, can be about anything. The team, Pistons overall, like, yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about? Get
Uh,
off your chest.
to be honest, I mean, I think that was pretty much it. This is like therapy, man. After a bad loss, you just got
Yeah,
to talk to someone that feels your pain. But um,
absolutely.
yeah, as far as the Pistons go, man, I think our future is bright. I truly feel like this season we're having this year should have happened last year. So that kind of worries me a little bit. Like I want to maximize Cade, right? So it's just the way the league is set up, it's a little scary. I don't think Cade's like those other guys. I think he wants to stay loyal, stick with the team. But I think this upcoming offseason, I think we should try and make that jump, to being
Yeah,
legitimate players in the playoff, right? You know what I'm saying? Where we could threaten a second round, maybe, upset a team, get to the Eastern Conference Finals or something like that. But that's a huge leap. I'm not going to sit here and act like that's just some normal thing, but honestly, I don't think it takes much, though. I think Cade's that special. If you get a superstar next to Cade, it wouldn't shock me if you see us take another major leap to like being a fourth, third seed. I just don't know who that superstar is, but we'll see. I trust in Trajan. I think he's a good GM. We'll see what
I
happens.
agree. I agree. No, like, and if that's the beautiful thing about this year and like them being so competitive and in every game and still above 500 right now is like how much like you can actually project and say like if they keep this pace up, like second round playoffs after next season, like that probably is like realistic. Eastern Conference Finals, that probably is realistic. We saw what the Pacers did
Yeah,
last year. I think that was the first time they'd made the playoffs in a few years, and they got all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, it was because some teams were injured, but still, like
yeah,
you just don't know what can happen. So,
yeah.
like we can actually have those conversations now and not be like it's a thing. I think
It's
it's
not.
like not crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's not crazy, right? I mean, especially with the East kind of imploding this year, right? I mean, I'm curious to see what the other teams in the East do. Because
Yeah,
that could also change our playoff outlook as well. If some other teams that are maybe around our same seating or same record, if they improve substantially with this trade deadline, like in Atlanta, or I mean, God forbid if the Indiana Pacers get better somehow. Like, but you know what I mean. Any team that's kind of at our same level, if they improve substantially, that could change the outlook for the rest of our season. But I think we just got to be patient, just wait for the right guy. So, yeah,
I love it, man.
but
I'm with you.
it was great meeting you, brother. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your night. We play again tomorrow, right?
No, so for you guys, it'll be Saturday afternoon before the Lions game. They got the Suns at home.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be a good one.
That's gonna be a good one. And you're getting some love here in the chat, man. Trevor says, "Love the positive attitude, Lewis. Come back on." And I echo that, man. Like, please come back. Appreciate you reaching out, brother. It's been a pleasure chatting hoops with you. And yeah, we'll be chatting after a win very soon, man. But you enjoy the rest of your night. And yeah, thanks again.
Yep. Likewise, brother. Take it easy, guys.
We'll talk soon. Got you. How good, guys. 2 new guests today. My man Robbie or AKA Bobby Buckets. Then we got Lewis up at the end. Like Lewis said, even after the losses, like, this is therapy. It's certainly therapy for me, because during that game we just watched, I was might be the most frustrated I've been during a game, just because of the way the Pacers were acting. But I'm gonna go through some comments here, guys. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Appreciate you guys even after a tough loss like that, wanting to come and listen or talk about Pistons hoops. So there was a comment in here. I'm just trying to find it. YouTube user brought this one up. Did Austin contact you early today, Jack, or is his streak still alive? Can I blame Austin for this one? Austin did not contact me earlier. He knew something was off. And as he says here, sorry, can't blame me tonight. Because he did. He didn't DM me. I reckon he had a feeling deep down that this is going to be a tough game. I mean, I did as well. I kind of thought they might get the dub, but they were due for this felt like a stinker. Like the Warriors game, like they came back. It was a bit of a tough, slower start, but tonight just felt like the Pistons never really could get something consistently going. Like, even when they cut it to 6, they have back-to-back turnovers. Blows straight back out to 10 or 12. They're just too careless with the ball tonight, and they just couldn't. Yeah, just could never really fire a really scary shot and make the Pacers. Like, if they get it back to 4 or 3, I think maybe there's more of a chance. But yeah, just tough night. So they're due for that. Hopefully they come back against the Suns, put up a really good fight, and they can definitely win that game. Especially at home. I mean, they beat the Suns a month ago in Phoenix. So what else we got in here, guys? Detroit pissed me off. Refs were shite tonight. Yeah, there was some frustrating calls. There's definitely been games I've been more angry at the refs, but I'm just checking up the foul count now. So Pacers shot 22 free throws, Pistons shot 22. How many personal fouls? Pacers 17 personal fouls, Pistons 20. I think there was some frustrating calls, but I don't think this was one of those games where I'm kind of blaming the officials, but they always do have a call or two. So appreciate the comment though. What else we got here? Trevor said Lewis spitting. Yeah, Lewis was a great guest. And so was Bobby. But yeah, I'd love to have both those two back. And yeah, Lewis is a good guy. So good to have him on the stream as well. What else? I've got some stuff like Jeremy Grant in here. Ray Floyd. Yeah, you know what? If there's one thing we didn't talk about enough on this stream, it was probably Miles Turner. What does he finish with tonight? I want to make sure I'm accurate with this. So Miles Turner, 28 points, which I believe was a season high. 2 blocks, 2 steals, 3 boards, which is probably not what ideal from your center, but didn't matter tonight. 57% from the field, 8 of 11 from 3. he was the Pistons killer tonight. Siakam was awesome in the first half, but Turner made a bunch of tough threes. Open threes, some of them. One really tough three. He just was the Pistons killer tonight. And to Ray's point, yeah, Miles Turner's a free agent this summer. So the Pistons, I think, can create a fair bit of cap space to go after him. The situation in Indiana before the Pacers went on this run after the new year, it felt way more likely that Miles might want a change of scenery. But we'll see. He would, when you think about the Pistons' current core and the holes that Turner fills, it's pretty exciting to imagine him in a Pistons uniform, because the thing with the Sar and Duren, offensively, they're both two absolute non-shooters, whereas you put Turner in, you got the floor spacing there. And then on defense, the lack of I think actually JD's been a better rim protector this season. Defensively overall in space and that kind of thing, he's still struggled. He had 2 blocks tonight, which one of them was really good on Miles Turner, but Turner's just a better rim protector. It's just a fact. So Turner would be a big upgrade at the center position. So I don't know how much it would cost to get him and what the Pistons have to do to have the cap space to do that, but he would be a pretty big upgrade for this team next season. And YouTube user. So when we're talking about Colin Sexton, so he has 19 million next season. So he's been expiring next year. Well, then I like that trade. I'm down for it. I just wasn't sure if he'd signed a really big extension in the summer before this season. So if he's on 19 this season, 19 next, then yeah, very similar to CJ McCollum in the sense of, I feel like you got to give up more to get Sexton though. That's the difference. That's why I think I lean towards CJ more, because you're probably just accommodating New Orleans and getting under the tax. Whereas Sexton, I feel like you might have to give up a little bit more, but just that contract, yeah, he's a bucket. And he plays, he might be a bit undersized, but kind of the good thing about having Cade, especially with Ivy out, you still got size in the backcourt. So yeah, I like Colin Sexton. That's a good name. And I think Austin brought that up originally. Why does Nemhard have Cade's number on defense? What is it about him? For me, definitely not an expert watching defense, but Nemhard just fights through screen. Cade is a very he has a good bag, but Cade also relies a lot on the pick and roll to get into the paint, which a lot of players do. But and he just Nemhard gets through every screen. He's just constantly in front of Cade, or at worst, he's on his hip, but still almost between. You can't shake him. And Cade so often either can shake players with his handle, or more often than not, he uses screens. But Nemhard just fights through every screen, and he's just always on your hip. When Cade was able to get to the bucket, Nemhard can't stop because he's a bit smaller, but that's where Turner was there, or Siakam was there, or Jarris Walker would come across. So even when Cade did get to the bucket and was likely to score, they've got these other wings coming across, and you've also still just got Nemhard there on your hip, always looking to steal it from behind you, or just Cade lost it a few times around the half court. That's what I would say it is his ability to fight through screens and just stay with his man. For me, at least watching it. What else? I think that might do it, guys. I think that might do it. Oh, YouTube users throwing a trade at me. Okay. This is where we're gonna close it out here. Jack, here is a trade I think fans would hate to use the cap space. Pat Connaughton, Tyler Smith, and a second for cash. Cut Wendell Moore Jr. So what are the Pistons we just bring in 2 players. Do they have 2 roster spots though? Oh, that's why you cut Wendell Moore. Yeah, Tyler Smith is from memory a stretch 4, not a big, but he's a true 4. I feel which kind of is what we have in Bobby. Pat Connaughton, I think, is kind of done. Yeah, I appreciate you putting this in here, YouTube user, but I don't know why. I don't know why we want to do this. I guess it's the second and some cash. Oh no, 4 cash. Yeah, no. I'm out on that trade. And like you said, I think fans would hate it. I agree with you, YouTube user. Both great guests tonight. I think that's going to do it, guys. Tough loss, tough game. They'll be back Saturday afternoon. So I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern for my friends over in the US. For us here in Australia, it's an 8 a.m. start on Sunday morning, but I'll be here covering the game, doing the stream. So I feel like they're going to get a win. I feel like they're going to sweep the Suns. I feel like the Pistons, tonight's an aberration. So hopefully we're back celebrating a win. But until then, as always, go Pistons.